Welcome, this is the Math 1 Unit 1 Study Guide. We're looking at objective number 1, and we'll dive right into question number 1. So when you're looking at this question, the first thing you got to realize is that you got to know the steps to solving a multi-step equation. The first step is to simplify both sides. Okay, so when you're going to simplify both sides, you have to, 1, make sure you have no parentheses, and 2, make sure you have no like terms. So we notice that we have parentheses here, and these parentheses are here because we need to distribute this 6 to both things inside. So 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times 2 is positive 12. Now the negative 5 is not inside the parentheses, so we do not distribute to it, and it will just drop down x. And then we're going to focus mostly on the left side in the beginning until we get it completely simplified, and then we'll work on the right side. So now we're looking at this, and you should notice that there are some like terms. 6x and negative 5x are like terms. This says 6x minus 5x. Don't go try and change the sign and like add the 5x over here, because this is the same side of the equation, so you'll use the same signs. So this is 6x's, and you're taking away 5x's, which leaves you with 1x. Okay? The positive 12 will come down. And now you'll notice that there are no more like terms, and there are no parentheses, so it's simplified. So we'll focus on the right side now, the equals. And then 61 can't be simplified any further. It's just one number, and it can't be simplified any further. 61 will come down again. Alright, and so now we have a simple one-step equation where we need to subtract 12 from both sides. You always want to make sure that you're working from the side with the x towards the other side when you're solving equations with just an x to the first power. 12 minus 12 is 0, okay? So then the x will come down, and then will equal, and then 61 minus 12 is 49. Moving on to question number 2. The same rule applies. Okay, I know I didn't finish them out while I was saying it. Step 2 would be move variables to one side. And step 3 would be move constants or numbers to one side, to the other side. And then step 4 would be to divide, and then I'm going to put in parentheses multiply, because on the very rare occasion you might have to multiply the coefficient to the other side. And remember that the coefficient is the number attached to the letter. In this particular case, we did not have a coefficient, so we didn't have to divide. Okay? So question number 2. Look here. We look at the left side. Notice how it cannot be simplified any further, so you'll just bring it down. The right side, however, has parentheses, and the parentheses are here because we need to distribute this negative 2. So I'm going to take the negative 2 and times x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 5, a negative times a negative makes a positive, and 2 times 5 is 10. Okay? So now, they are not like terms, and we don't have parentheses. So step 1, check. Okay? Step 2, move variables to one side. Well, there's only one set of variables, so that's check. Next one, move constants to the other side. Well, constant is the number, and notice how the x has a constant next to it. We need to move that to the other side. Well, it says add 10, so we will subtract 10. And minus 10 from both sides. 10 minus 10 is 0. Negative 2x will come down. And then 10 minus 10 is 0 again, and it cancels out. Since we already have something here, we don't have to write it. Okay? So then, we're done with that step. Now we got to divide the coefficient. Well, the coefficient is negative 2, so we'll divide it. Okay? 0 divided by negative 2 is 0 equals 2 divided by negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1, so we have 1x left, and so x equals 0. Many people get confused at this stage because they're like, oh, it canceled out, it must be no solution. And that's not the case. 0 is a number, and 0 can be an answer. So don't assume that just because stuff canceled out that it doesn't work. Make sure you pay attention to the fact that 0 is a number and can be an answer. Okay? Question number 3. The same rules apply. Split this up. This is when we start to get a little bit harder. So we're going to look at the left side. Alright? And we have parentheses, and they're there because we need to distribute. So 3 times 4x is 12x. And then you do 3 times negative 3, which is negative 9. They are not like terms, so they cannot be simplified any further. Let's move to the other side. Okay, over here, you'll notice that there is no parentheses, and these are not like terms, so they can't be simplified either. Let's bring them down. Okay? Step 2, since we have both sides simplified, is move variables to one side. So I can move this 12 over to here, or this 12 over to here. So I'm going to move 12x from this side over to this side, and it's like this x term. So I'll do that. 12x's minus 12x's is 0x's. Then negative 9 will come down, equals negative 6 will just drop, and then 12 minus 12 is 0 also, and that goes away. And then so you'll notice it says negative 9 equals negative 6. There are no letters anymore. Whenever the letters go away, you have one of two options. It could be no solution, or it could be all real numbers. Okay? So, the way you tell is this statement a true statement? Negative 9 equals negative 6. No, that is not true, so then it's no solution. Had it said negative 9 equals negative 9, then it would have been all real numbers, because that's a true statement. But since negative 9 does not equal negative 6, nor will it ever equal negative 6, it's no solution. Okay? And it's no solution because there's no number that we can plug in for x that will make this a true statement. Okay? So moving to question number 4, and the last question for objective number 1. So we're going to look at the left side. It's a little bit more complex, but we got this. So you'll take 1/2 and you'll distribute it because we have a parentheses and we need to get rid of those parentheses. Half of 8x is 4x. And then we take the 1/2 and we distribute it to the negative 6. Half of negative 6 is negative 3. And then we do not distribute to the x because it's not inside the parentheses. Okay? Now, we'll keep working here. We notice that we should have a like term between the 4x and the negative x. See how they're on the same side of the equation? You're going to use the same signs. This is 4x minus x. It's kind of like you just forget that the 3's there and you just butt those two things together and it says 4x minus x. Well, that's 3x's. And then the negative 3 will come down. Now it's simplified. We have no more like terms and no more parentheses, so we can move on to the other side. We have parentheses here, and they're here because we need to distribute the 5. 5 times x, 5x. 5 times positive 2 is a positive 10. And then the negative 3 is not inside the parentheses, so we just bring it down, or the subtract 3. Okay? And then you'll notice we have like terms. 10 and negative 3, they're both constants. Well, they're on the same side of the equal sign, so we'll do the same signs. So 10 minus 3 is positive 7, and then the 5x will come down. Okay? Step 2, we move variables to one side. Most people try to take the variable to the left side. I have no problems with that. It does not matter which side you go to. And actually, some of you like to move the numbers first together, and that technically is okay. Rule 2, or step 2 and step 3 are interchangeable on when you actually do them, so it technically doesn't matter. So I'm just going to stick with my rules. I'm going to move this 5x over here with this 3x. Since that's a positive 5x, I'm going to subtract 5x, because that'll give me 0 right here, which is what I want. I don't want any x's on the side. And I'm going to subtract 5x over here, since I did it on the other side. 3x's minus 5x's gives me negative 2x. The negative 3 will come down and equal, and then that 0 plus 7 is 7. Okay? And then step 3, move constants to the other side. 3 is a constant, so we're going to move it over here. Since it's a negative 3 or a minus 3, we're going to add 3. And so then negative 2x will come down. It will equal, and 7 plus 3 is 10. And then I'll divide by negative 2, because that's what step 4 says. And then x equals negative 5. Okay? Now, as with any mathematical equation, you should be able to plug in the number that you found as your answer and check to see if you got it right. Okay? So, if you're doing it correctly, you should be able to do that. And if you do that for this particular one, 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. Negative 40 minus 6 is negative 46. Half of negative 46 is negative 23. And then you have a negative x over here next to that parentheses. A negative negative 5 is a plus 5. So if you have negative 23 plus 5, that's negative 18. So our whole left side equals negative 18. If this is a true thing, that means the whole right side will equal negative 18 as well. So negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Negative 15 minus 3 is negative 18 as well. So you can see by plugging in negative 5 for the x up top that it'll give you the same answer on both sides, which means our answer works. Thank you for watching the Unit 1 Study Guide Objective 1 video. Please move on to Objective 2.